Yo, what's going on YouTube? My name is Unknown and welcome back to another Blox video. Now in today's video, we're going to be ranking all the accessories in the first C and the second C from worst to best. Now I'm going to cut the intro short here. I'm just going to fill you guys in on a few things. As you can see, I'm level 1600, so I've gained about 100 levels since the last videos. So I'm making some progress. Also, I have a lot of money, so I'm probably going to be spending that eventually in the future for future episodes. And I also got Dragon Breath. I got my Fishman Karate to 400 mastery. I got my the electric mastery to 400 mastery, and I got the black step to 400 mastery. So all I need is to get this to 400 mastery, and then I think I'm gonna get superhuman. So yeah, that's basically it. That's kind of all I wanted to fill you guys in, and let's get straight into this video. First C tier list for accessories, I'm gonna put in last place the pink coat. It's not really that good. It only gives 200 health and 10% gun damage. And if you're using this in the first C, gun damage isn't really going to be that important because you're mainly going to be using gun to attract enemies. So the only really benefit from this is the 200 health. Other than that, I really see no purpose in using the pink coat at all. In 7th place, I'm going to have to give it to the Usoap's hat. It gives 7.5% gun damage plus 15% gun cooldown and 100 health. This is going to be a bit more useful if you're using gun for PvP for certain attacks that do stun moves, because it does reduce your cooldown attacks. But as I said, the gun damage is kind of useless because gun is not really that good, especially in the first C. Moving into our 6th place spot, I'm going to give it to the Swordsman Hat. It gives 10% damage in sword and 100 in health and energy. So basically, sword attacks, when you're leveling up, I don't really recommend using sword at all. I mean, if you are using sword, then obviously you're gonna probably want to use this. But if you're not using sword, then I don't recommend you getting this. I highly recommend you level up using your fruit or your fists if you're a Buddha player. Other than that, Swordsman Hat is only really useful if you're using sword for PvP or stuff. In the 5th place spot, I'm going to have to give it to the Marine Cap. So this gives you plus 7.5% damage on sword and gun, and 10% reduction on sword and gun. So it doesn't, first off, this is way better than the Swordsman Hat, even if you're using sword. It doesn't give, it's 2.5 difference when it comes to damage, so it's not that big of a deal. Plus it gives 10% cooldown reduction on sword too. So this is gonna be good if you're kind of using sword for support or guns for support, because it has cooldown reduction, or if you're just using sword and gun for PvP, because the cooldown reduction and the damage is really good. But overall, I'll have to put this in 5th place spot because unfortunately there are better things in the first C. For our 4th place spot, I'm going to have to give it to the Vice Admiral coat right here. It gives 10% fighting style damage and plus 200 energy. So this is kind of only useful if you're using Buddha, and I don't expect you to have Buddha in the first C, but I did get Buddha, so if I can do it, you guys can do it. And if you are going to get Buddha in the first C, then the best option is this coat. Until you get the best accessory for the first C, this is going to be the best accessory you can use if you're using Buddha. In our 3rd place, I'm going to have to give it to the Black Cape. Basically, if you're using Devil Fruit to level up, which most people are going to be using Devil Fruit to level up in the first C, this is going to be your first way to get bonus damage on your Devil Fruit. So obviously this is going to be pretty high because Devil Fruit's going to be a really good way to level up in the first C. So I'm going to give this to the third place spot in the T list. For our 2nd place spot, I'm going to give it to the Tomoe Ring. It gives 10% damage on your block streets, and because most people are going to be using block streets for leveling up, 10% damage is quite a lot for an accessory. It's in the first C, so this is going to be in our 2nd place spot because of that. And finally, most of you guys probably guessed it, the best accessory in the first C is going to be the cool shades. First off, you get more run speed, which is going to be extremely useful, especially when you have to travel around the map, getting all the quests and all that stuff. It gives energy and health, but that's not really good. And it gives a 7.5% universal damage buff. So even for even if you're using a Blox root or Buddha, this is going to be the best one to use, because not only does it give you more 7.5 damage on Blox root, but also melee. So this is going to be the option for basically any player if they ever get this and they're in the first C. Let's move on to our tier list on the 2nd C accessories. So coming in at number 10 in our last place spot, I'm gonna have to give it to the blue Spikey Coat. It gives 500 energy, 250 health, and 7.5% defense on like all attacks. So like the defense, like it's not that good. Like you don't really need defense when you're going into like the second seed, because like the only really hard thing you're gonna be fighting is the mobs. And if you're cautious enough and you have Logia, then you don't really need that. And even with Buddha, you don't really need that, because like there's better accessories for Buddha players. So I'm gonna unfortunately have to give this the last place spot. For our 9th place spot, I'm going to give it to the Ghoul Mask. It's completely useless and utterly useless unless you're using Buddha. So if you're using Buddha, then this is probably going to be the best pick in the second C. But if you're not using Buddha, then this is completely and utterly useless. Alright, so now for our 8th spot. There's not really much of a difference between our 8th spot and our 7th spot, but there's a slight difference which makes our 8th spot a bit worse. So for 8th spot, we're going to give it to the black Spikey Coat. It gives 7.5% damage on all of attacks, and 200 health and 200 energy. So for our 7th place spot, I'm going to have to give it to the red Spikey Coat. It basically is the exact same as the black Spikey Coat, but it gives more health and more energy. That's the only reason it's better. For our 6th place spot, I'm going to give it to Choppa, which is a drop from one of the sea beasts. So basically it gives 3% damage on your Devil Fruit, 15% cooldown reduction on Devil Fruit, which is huge, especially if you're grinding, and 10% like reduction to Devil Fruit attacks. So like some of the Devil Fruit attack, some of the NPCs use Devil Fruit, so it could be useful when you grinding like with your Devil Fruit. I highly recommend this if you're like grinding with your Devil Fruit, because it's pretty good with the cooldown reduction. So in our 5th place spot, I'm gonna have to give it to Top Hat. I think this is slightly better, especially in PvP, because of the 10% cooldown reduction on all of your attacks. And sword, and for like sword attacks you get a reduction, and I'm pretty sure because like it's like one of the two main like ways to fight is with like sword and Devil Fruit. Gun's not really that common, but sword and Devil Fruit are kind of like the main ways to use for PvP, and 10% reduction on sword is kind of good. But the main thing that carries this is the 10% reduction on all of your attacks. I think that's insane, because like if you're PvPing, like you're probably gonna have like max in like melee and max in one of your sword and Devil Fruit, and having like 10% cooldown on both your melee and your Devil Fruit or your sword is pretty big. Coming in our 4th place, I'm going to have to give it to the Warrior Helm. This is extremely good if you are a sword main, because not only does it buff your melee attacks, but it also buffs your sword attacks, and it gives you reduction on cooldown for like your sword attacks and your melee attacks. So just all in all, if you're going sword main, this is a really good pick. This is really good if you're doing that. For our 3rd and 2nd spot, this is kind of interchangeable. It depends on if you're going either sword or Devil Fruit. But I'm gonna have to give it the 3rd place to the Zebra Cap. This is good if you're going sword main, because you get 10% damage on sword and 50% reduction on your Devil Fruit. And if you're going sword main, your Devil Fruit's probably going to be only used for support. So if you're having 15% reduction on Devil Fruit, then you can kind of spam your Devil Fruit abilities to get to the sword attacks. But all in all, it's really good, so I'm gonna have to give this on its 3rd place slot. For our 2nd place slot, I'm gonna give it to the Dark Coat. It has pretty high like health and energy that gives you, so all that's just good by itself, and it gives you 15% Devil Fruit attacks, and majority of the people in 2nd C are going to be running Devil Fruit attacks, so having 15% damage on Devil Fruit is going to be pretty huge. And for our 1st slot, most of you guys could guess it, but it's the Swan Glasses. It's basically a hugely buffed version of the Cool Shades. So basically this gives 25% running speed, 8% damage on all attacks, 8% cooldown reduction, and 8% defense in all of attacks, and it gives 250 health and energy. So this is probably the most versatile like accessory in the entire game. It can run with any single build, and it would be good with every single build. Because it's so versatile in any playstyle, even for like PvE and PvP, I'm gonna have to give it to its first place spot. It's probably even gonna beat most of the accessories in the 3rd seed just because of how good it is. Alright, so this is my like ranking of the 1st seed and 2nd seed accessories. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys disagree or if you guys disagree or need to say anything, just comment down below and I'll be looking at all of your comments. So the description is going to be the final order, but if you guys want my reasoning, just watch the video. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed.